A roar like thunder rips across the coastline as a colossal tsunami rises, black, towering, and wide enough to devour the horizon. In a blink, the shore becomes a stampede. People sprint uphill, breathless and terrified, clutching children and guiding elders by the wrist. At the same time, bright arrows pulse along the streets like veins of light, leading everyone toward higher ground, while the sea behind them churns like a monster made of water and fury. During the chaos, they survived because they listened to their ancestors. Seagulls wheel over gentle waves, and sunlight warms ancient moss-covered tsunami stones embedded in the earth. Their carved warnings are still visible, yet nearly forgotten. The world is peaceful, ordinary, too ordinary to imagine how quickly the ocean can turn into a weapon. Haruto is 12, restless as the sea breeze and always moving. As he kicks a pebble along the narrow path toward the marketplace, his sandals scuff the dirt in impatient rhythm. He glances at the tsunami stones out of habit, but he doesn't slow down. To him, they're just scenery, like lampposts, boat ropes, and nets drying on fences. His curiosity is sharp, sure, yet tradition feels distant, something adults whisper about when they think children aren't listening. Meanwhile, Grandmother Yumi watches from her wooden porch, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her eyes are soft, wise, and patient in a way Haruto doesn't yet understand. She carries the town's stories the way fishermen carry their nets, carefully, reverently, because one careless tear can lose everything. So when she calls Haruto over, it's with a smile that hints at memories older than both of them. Down in the coastal town, life bustles with familiar noise. Fishing boats creak against the docks, vendors shout prices over stacks of seaweed and fresh mackerel, and children weave through the crowd playing tag near the ancient stones. Even so, those stones sit quietly where they've always been, half covered in moss and half ignored by modern life. People step around them without thinking, as if warnings carved in rock are no more important than decoration. Not far away, Mayor Sato walks through the market, nodding to residents with practiced calm. He is practical and forward-looking, proud of how the town has modernized. Therefore, he's skeptical of messages carved centuries ago. "We have phones," he once told the council. "We have alerts. We have science." Still, as he passes the stones, his gaze flicks toward them for half a second longer than usual, as if something there refuses to be fully dismissed. Near the shoreline, one stone sits cracked down the middle, its split surface catching sunlight. It looks like a mouth that tried to speak and failed, a quiet metaphor for forgotten wisdom in a town that has grown comfortable. However, comfort doesn't stop the earth from moving. Dr. Kenji, a visiting geologist, kneels beside his instruments near the edge of town. His brow tightens as he studies faint but persistent tremors pulsing under the soil, rhythmic, deliberate, wrong. They're not dramatic enough to send people running, yet they are too consistent to ignore. So he stands quickly, dusts his hands, and heads straight for the mayor's office with an urgency that makes passers-by turn their heads. When he finds Mayor Sato, Dr. Kenji doesn't waste time. A major quake could hit, maybe weeks, maybe months, but it's coming. Naturally, the news spreads faster than the tide. In the marketplace, fishermen argue with teachers, shopkeepers lean into tight circles of conversation, younger residents insist modern warnings will be enough, elders murmur, "The stones warned our ancestors long before technology." Their voices drift through the crowd like smoke. Haruto lingers nearby, pretending not to listen, yet every word hooks him. Why would stones warn anyone? What were they trying to say? And if they mattered, why did everyone treat them like old furniture? As he wanders toward the shore, the cracked stone catches his eye again. Then the ground gives a soft shudder. Dust trickles from the split surface like falling ash. Haruto freezes, staring. For a moment, the stone looks almost alive, not because it moves, but because Haruto feels something beneath it, a whisper under the earth, faint yet insistent, like someone knocking from behind a wall. That night, sleep refuses to come. Haruto's thoughts churn like waves against rocks, and the more he tries to ignore them, the louder they get. So, before dawn, before the market wakes, and before fishermen untie their boats, he slips away and climbs the narrow forest path above town. Sunlight filters through cedar branches, painting the ground in shifting patterns. Up here, the air feels older, quieter, as if the forest has been holding its breath for centuries. Then he sees it. Half buried near twisted roots, an ancient stone far older than the ones below. Moss clings to it like a blanket, and the carvings are worn thin by time. Even so, the stone radiates purpose, like a message that refused to disappear. Haruto's pulse spikes. He runs home, nearly tripping over his own feet, and grabs Grandmother Yumi by the sleeve. "You have to come, now!" Yumi rises slowly, yet her eyes sharpen as soon as she sees his face. Without questions, she follows him up the path, as if some part of her already knows what they will find. When they reach the stone, Yumi kneels and touches it gently, like greeting an old friend. Her fingers trace the faded grooves with a tenderness that makes Haruto's throat tighten. "This," she whispers, "belonged to the village before ours." And then she begins the legend. Decades ago, she says, the sea rose without warning, not as a simple wave, but as a monster. In her story, the tsunami becomes a dark dragon of water and shadow, its body stretching across the bay, its roar shaking mountains. It swallowed homes and fields and stole hundreds of lives in minutes. Survivors, shaking, grieving, furious at their hopelessness, carved stones to mark the safe line. They placed them where future generations would see them and understand, when the earth shakes, when the sea pulls back, run to higher ground. As Yumi speaks, Haruto imagines it vividly, streets filling like bowls, boats crashing through windows, the dragon twisting through alleys as if hunting. He imagines survivors clawing their way up muddy hills, turning back to watch their world vanish. For the first time, the stones stop feeling like scenery and start feeling like voices, heavy with memory and urgency. Then Yumi adds something even more important. "Our ancestors didn't only carve warnings," she says softly. "They prepared. They kept food and water in shelters on high ground. They taught the evacuation paths. They practiced. They never assumed the sea would stay kind." Haruto presses his fingertips to the carving. Beneath the cold stone, he feels it again, a faint tremor, like a heartbeat under the earth. It is as if the land itself is trying to speak, and for the first time, Haruto is listening. So, when the town gathers in the community hall days later, Haruto's discovery lands like a spark in dry grass. The air buzzes with unease, yes, but also possibility. Dr. Kenji stands beside a map, pointing to fault lines and coastal risk zones. Yumi and the elders sit quietly, faces solemn. Meanwhile, younger residents stand and speak with a new kind of determination. "We can turn the stone warnings into modern guidance," a teacher says. "Bright signposts, universal pictograms, arrows that glow at night." "And QR codes," a teenager adds, holding up a phone. "Visitors can scan evacuation maps even if they can't read our language." Someone else leans forward. "Clear the old paths. If people trip, they lose time." Another voice, shaky but brave. "And emergency kits, at home and in high shelters. Water, radios, first aid, blankets." Mayor Sato rubs his temples, trapped between budgets and fear, between the shame of overreacting and the horror of being too late. Finally, he exhales. "Fine. Small upgrades, nothing drastic." Yet small is still something, and something done early can mean everything later. What follows is a town building its own lifeline.
Volunteers clear brush from evacuation routes, hauling rocks aside and cutting vines away. Electricians install glowing arrows designed to shine even in darkness. Teens hammer signposts into the earth with bold pictograms. A person running uphill waves behind them and a directional arrow that needs no translation. Families walk the routes together and time themselves. Elders practice at a careful pace. Children learn to look for the next sign instead of looking back. Haruto throws himself into the work, sleeves rolled up, cheeks smudged with paint. He carefully paints a bright red arrow toward higher ground. Then he steps back, squints, and repaints it thicker, as if making the message louder. One evening at dusk, someone places a single candle beside the cracked stone near the shoreline.
The flame flickers in the wind, and its warm light dances across the carvings, making them look alive again. Even so, beneath the optimism, tension grows. The land feels restless, the sea feels watchful, and Haruto can't shake the sense that their preparations aren't a project anymore. They're a countdown. Then the day arrives without ceremony. First, the ground groans, so low Haruto feels it in his bones before he hears it. Then the earthquake hits violently. Windows shatter, buildings sway like unsteady giants, fishing nets snap from hooks, street signs whip back and forth. Alarms blare and then choke off as power fails, plunging parts of town into dusty, trembling silence. Haruto stumbles, catches himself, and grabs grandmother Yumi's arm, pulling her away from a swinging lantern that crashes and bursts. His voice comes out cracked with fear, but sharp with certainty. The stone said run. Outside, the shaking keeps coming in brutal waves. Somewhere, a wall splits. Somewhere else, a boat slides off its supports. And up on the hill path, one of the new arrows still glows faintly. One small upgrade, now burning like a lifeline. When the quake finally eases, another terror arrives. The ocean draws a long, chilling breath. Water retreats unnaturally fast, exposing wriggling fish, glistening shells, and seabed ridges never meant to see daylight. The silence afterward is wrong, too still, too expectant. Even people who never believed the stones feel it in their stomachs. Strong quake, sudden sea retreat, the natural warnings are screaming. Dr. Kenji shouts near the docks, voice raw, "Tsunami! Evacuate! Now!" And then the wave rises. It doesn't just swell, it shapes itself, in Haruto's terrified mind, into the water dragon from Yumi's story. Its spine is churning foam, its eyes are spiraling vortexes. It lifts higher than rooftops, higher than the cracked stone, and for one awful heartbeat it hangs there, enormous, certain, before surging forward with terrifying grace. But at that exact moment, the town's choices answer the fear. The evacuation signs ignite along the routes, glowing arrows, bright pictograms, illuminated paths threading towards the forest trails. Tourists who cannot read the local language understand instantly anyway. Run, up, now. Crowds surge uphill, not guided by panic alone, but by clear symbols built for speed. People shout directions, and the arrows keep pointing, unwavering, even as aftershocks rattle the ground. Haruto runs with Yumi, lungs burning, legs screaming. He focuses on the next glowing sign, and then the next, because looking back feels like staring into a mouth. Then, a sharp whimper. Haruto's head snaps sideways. A stray dog is trapped under a fallen signpost, pinned by the beam. The dog's eyes are wide, pleading without words. Yumi grabs Haruto's sleeve. "Haruto, don't stop!" Haruto hesitates, 1 second, 2, while the dragon wave roars closer. His heart pounds so hard it hurts. Then he makes a choice. He sprints back, wedges his hands under the beam, and heaves. The wood shifts.
The dog yelps. Haruto strains again, teeth clenched, and lifts just enough to yank the dog free. He clutches it to his chest and turns uphill. Behind him, the tsunami slams into the first row of houses. Wood explodes into splinters. Boats rip free and smash through walls. Water surges through streets like it owns them. Spray lashes Haruto's back, cold and sharp, as he runs with everything he has left. He doesn't look back. He follows the arrows. For a brief, haunting moment, one ancient stone remains standing at the shoreline, framed by surging water, unyielding, exactly where ancestors placed it centuries before. Then the wave swallows the view, and the town disappears beneath the dragon's body. On the high hill, survivors gather in shaken clusters, breaths ragged, clothes soaked, hearts hammering. Some stare in stunned silence, others grip strangers' hands as if anchoring themselves to the world. Children cry softly, elders pray, not because prayer replaces preparation, but because fear still finds space in the chest, even when you do everything right. Below them, the town lies shattered, broken rooftops, upturned boats, water swirling through empty streets. Yet in the devastation, one truth stands clear. Hundreds are alive because they ran in time. They recognized the natural warning signs, and they had roots that stayed readable even when the power failed. Mayor Sato stands at the cliff's edge, face pale, voice hoarse. "The stones spoke," he whispers, more to himself than anyone else. Nearby, Haruto kneels beside Yumi, still holding the rescued dog. The animal trembles, then slowly relaxes, curling into Haruto's lap. In that small warmth, Haruto feels the lesson settle deep. Every life matters, and every second matters. Weeks later, grief moves through town like a slow tide, but rebuilding begins with a clear decision. No home, school, or shop will ever again be built below the stone's safety line. The shoreline is left open, part memorial, part buffer, part reminder of what water can take and what wisdom can save. Moreover, the town strengthens what worked. Evacuation routes are widened and kept clear. Drills become routine, not occasional. Emergency kits appear by doors. Water, food, flashlights, radios, medicine, copies of documents sealed in plastic. High shelters are stocked with shared supplies because disasters don't care who forgot batteries. And the glowing signs are maintained, checked, and repainted because warnings only protect people when they can be seen. Finally, a new stone is carved, larger than the rest. Its face blends ancient characters with modern icons, waves, arrows, a running figure, and a simple message that needs no translation: run to higher ground. Children, including Haruto, help push it upright, while adults pack earth around its base. Their hands are muddy, their arms ache, yet nobody complains because this work feels like planting a future. When they finish, Yumi kneels beside Haruto, her voice gentle but firm. Wisdom survives when someone chooses to listen. That night, the town holds a candlelit vigil around the stones. Flames flicker across carved warnings, each a reflection that the past will not be forgotten again. Families return to their new elevated homes and place emergency kits by the doors. Simple actions, quietly powerful. And as the wind rolls in from the sea, the stones stand firm, guardians once more, not because they stop the ocean, but because they teach people how to survive it.